relationships. So we're going to kind of have an introduction to domain and range in this lesson. So it's important to remember that your x values, though another name for that is your domain or your input, or it's also known as the independent variable. Okay. Then you have your y values. Different names for y values are range, output, and dependent variable. Okay, so this domain and range is one of the most forgotten things in class. So just remember, your x values are your domain, your y values are your range. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at which problems you're going to be facing today. So first, we're given a set of ordered pairs, and we need to write our answer down 3 different ways. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to write it down in this table. So my first x is -3, because remember, it's xy, etc. And one thing we want to do is we want to try to write our domain or our x values down from least to greatest. It's not a must, but it makes things a lot more neat if we do it that way. So we have -3, -2, then a 1, and a 3, and a 5. Okay, and then we just write the y values associated with this. So since I had -3 here, the y value is 1. -2, the y value is 0. 1, the y value is 2. 3 had the y value of -4, and 5 had the y value of 3. Okay, next I'm just going to plot the points on my graph. So I'm going to go left 3, so 1, 2, 3, up 1. Okay, then we're going to go -2, 0. That's left 2, up 0. So it's right there. Then 1, 2, over 1, up 2. Put our dot. And 3, -4. So about right there. It's kind of small. It's hard for my eyes to see. And then 5, 3. So 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. About right there. Okay, so I plotted my dots. And now I need to write what is the domain and what is the range. So we're going to start with doing a little squiggly bracket, and then we're just going to put our x values in our domain, because remember, domain is another word for x values. So we're going to do -3, comma, -2, comma, 1, comma, 3, comma, 5, and with a squiggly bracket. My range is just my y values, so 1, comma, 0, comma, 2, comma, -4, comma, 3, and with a squiggly bracket. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So it's just trying to help us reinforce the idea that our domain is the domains are all of our x values. Oh, excuse me. Oof. And range is all the y values. Okay, another similar type of problem you'll see is one like this, where you'll be given the graph, and then we have to write the ordered pairs, the x and the y's, and the domain and the range. So let's just go ahead and start with this one right here. Looks like we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, -5, 2 for our first one. Then we have -1, 2. I can't see. -1, 2, so -2, -2. And then 2, 0. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 3, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. Alright, so let's just write down our x values. And remember, we want to get them from least to greatest. So if we work left to right, you notice I already have my x's from least to greatest. So we got -5, the y value of that is 2. Then we get -2, the y value of that is -2. Then we have 2, 0, 3, -2, and 5 with 2. Okay, domain is my x value, so squiggly bracket, -5, -2, 2, 3, and 5. And then our range is 2, -2, 0. Okay, now notice I have a -2 and a 2 again. But I already have a 2 and a -2 written down, so I actually do not need to repeat those when I'm doing domain and range. If you have any repeats, you don't have to write it down twice. So I can just leave it like that, and then I'm done. Okay? Alright, one more thing, we're going to talk about mapping. So mapping basically is mapping your x values onto your y values. So once again, I'm going to try to go least to greatest. So we got a negative 4x, an x, that's a negative 4, an x, that's a negative 1, and a 0, and another 0, and a 1. But if you recall, we just talked about how if something repeats, we don't have to write it down twice. We only have to write it down once. So we can write down that 0 only once. Or we only have to write it down once. Don't repeat it. Okay, so for my y values, we got a 2, 6. Y values, it doesn't matter if they're in order or not. You can have as many y values as you want. Or, that's not what I meant to say. The y values can be in whatever order they want. So then here, I got another 2 right here. But since I already wrote this 2 down, I don't need to rewrite the 2. And then 4 and 7. So mapping is just matching. So this ordered pair is negative 4, 2. So I'm going to go from negative 4 across to 2. Here, this is negative 1, 6. So I'm going to go from negative 1 across to 6. Looks like these are matching up nicely. And then 0, I got to go up to 2. So I got to come back up to here. 1 goes to 4. And then I have another 0. So I'm going to start here in the same place and then go down to 7. And just as an extension question, is this a function? Okay, hopefully you're telling yourself no, because I have 2 lines coming out of 0, which means my x is repeated. But that's how you draw your mapping. Okay, so you just have a few questions like that today, so you can get started, and please let me know if you have any questions.